Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. So as promised, a little bit later than planned, I'm going to go through those horses that I've highlighted in previous videos for races at Cheltenham and talk about what I think of them now, what I think of their chances, and whether I think they can run big races or not at this stage in their preparation this season. So we'll start with the first race. The first race, it will be the Supreme Novice on Tuesday. And the first horse I think I highlighted for this race was My Mate Mozzie, who I highlighted him after he won at Punchestown in October. He beat the right horse that day. I think this is the race. He was beating Barbados or Barbados. I know the commentators called him Barbados. That's why I've referred to him as Barbados. You can see it was top rated, being beaten with Filey Bay back in third. Now, I was really impressed with how Barbados closed up on My Mate Mozzie, and then My Mate Mozzie went away again. He's since won at Navan, and then he finished second at Fairyhouse in a Grade 1. And I think if he'd jumped the last, he would have won that Grade 1. If he jumps that last and wins the Grade 1, he wouldn't be 18-1 that he is currently for this race. And I actually think he's still overpriced and still think he's got a really good chance in the Supreme Novice. I think the Chanel Farmer Grade 1 at Punchestown, I think it is the race where we'll see him next. And he'll likely take on another one of ours that we've got from Ireland, Sir Gerhard, but we'll come on to him in a bit. The second horse I want to talk to you about is Constitution Hill. I highlighted him at 8-1 for the Supreme. He's obviously shortened significantly today. I think he's gone favourite. Actually, in my video, when he won at Sandown the first time, I said, I think he will go off a shorter price than John Bon. And fingers crossed, that's looking promising now. After he won today, that was really impressive. I don't think there's any reason not to run in the Supreme. Bullymore has been talked about by some people, and I think that's just a waste of time talking about it. He's running in the Supreme. You don't win a race by 12 lengths, win a race by 14 lengths, and then even discuss the 2.5 stepping up a trip. The only one who could is John Bon. If he runs in the Sydney Banks, they might step up, but they did do it with Shishkin and dropped him back to the Supreme. Nicky Henderson's not afraid of running them both in the same race. He did it with Altior Bouvidere. He did it with Sprinter Sacra and Spirit Sun. And he did it with Shishkin and Chantry House. So he'll run them both in the same race, and hopefully the best horse will win, and hopefully that's Constitution Hill. One thing I did mention in a previous video, the ITV people were asked for their horse to follow for the year, and Mick Fitzgerald highlighted Constitution Hill. He didn't go for John Bon, and that really caught my eye and was another, that's interesting. I think Constitution Hill's very good then. We highlighted him at 8. He'd already shortened before today, and now he's won again, so looks very good. The third horse I want to talk about is Sir Gerhard. Highlighted him after winning at Cheltenham in the Supreme Novices. Said that in the Champion Bumper, and I said that I felt he was the speed horse and Kilcruit had the more stamina, and they would go Sir Gerhard in the 2, Kilcruit in the 2.5. At the beginning of the season, Willie Mullins came out and said he was doing the opposite, which was like, oh no, got that wrong. That would be frustrating. But Kilcruit has certainly disappointed. Whereas Sir Gerhard has come out and won a 2-mile hurdle race at Leopardstown. He was always going to start over 2 mile, but I think they will keep him over 2 mile now instead of stepping him up because they don't have Kilcruit to be the 2-miler for them. So I think we'll see Sir Gerhard in the Supreme, and I think the Chanel Farm will be the next race he runs in. You can currently get about 7-1 for Sir Gerhard. Might be a bit bigger now as Constitution Hill's won. They might drift. Unlikely, what bookies are like. They just like to shorten horses and never drift anything. He might be a slightly bit bigger, but I think the big race for him and the big race for My Mate Mozzie is the Chanel Farmer. Whoever comes out of that in front and impressively, or wins it on merit, not wins it through something getting badly hampered, will be the biggest Irish challenger to the 2 Nicky Henderson horses. I highlighted Mon Miral for the Arkle. He's now 40-1 for the Arkle after disappointing in the fighting 5th. He's by Saint de Saint, if you want to say it in the French way. So let's run something on our Pro Stats as we have access to it. Saint de Saint. Let's go for group by race type. And you can see they've actually got a better strike rate over fences than hurdles. So let's just remove top rated. And it's still better over fences than hurdles. Let's have a look at age. I think he's 5 now, isn't he? 5-year-olds over fences is still good. It's actually profitable, backing all Cent Descent progeny who are 5 over fences. Why, give it a go. The Fighting Fifth, he's come back. I think he came back lame, and they've said that they'll go again somewhere else. I really want him over fences. You can get 40-1 about him over fences. If you were thinking about backing him over fences, don't back him now. Don't back him now because he's unlikely to run at the moment. When they go non-run and no bet, if you can still get 33-1, if he's not been seen since, and it's there's still a month that they could go and get a novice chase into him, then you might think about backing Monmiral. We're already on. We look like we're going to lose our money at the moment, but that is what happens with anti-post bets. But you can see why I want him over fences. The third race of the day will be the Ultima. Now, I won't be doing every race in these videos because some races I haven't got anything yet for. I haven't highlighted anything, haven't noticed anything, any that could be going there that interest me. Obviously, you can work out some of them who are going there, but they don't interest me going forward, especially at the prices. So we're looking at the Ultima, and I've actually got 5 here, but I also want to tell you about somebody who's highlighted another one to me, which would make it number 6, but I don't want to talk about this horse. I have had a private discussion with him via DM, and we've highlighted a few more angles. He gave me a few angles, and I gave him a few angles about that horse, and there does look to be plenty to it, but I'm not going to talk about him in this video because it's not essentially my analysis, it's not my selection. But if you want to go and find out who it is, send him a DM or send him a message, follow him on Twitter. He does actually know, I think he knows his stuff with racing. He spots some good angles about horses, so I'll come to that in a second. But the 5 I want to talk about, Remastered, was obviously going to run a big race, or obviously was in the process of running a big race at Newbury in the Labatt Trophy when falling. Now, it might be that he would have faded, which he did again at Haydock, but the Haydock ground, it's a really stamina-sapping track, whereas I think he might get ground more similar to Newbury. Course will be more like Newbury, and it could be that he's a bit better than his current mark. I think he maybe just got outstayed in the Tommy Whittle. He's currently 25-1 is Remastered for the Ultima. I don't know where else they would go with him, or what else they would do in the meantime with him. He's now had 3 runs this season. That's probably enough. November, December. You may get him one more in February, but I think if they've got their eye on a Cheltenham race, especially the Ultima, they don't want to be running him in February and potentially either winning or disappointing. So that's Remastered. Second horse I want to talk about is Vintage Clouds, and do you know he's down to the same mark as when he won it last year? And when he won it last year, he beat Happy Go Lucky, who went on to win at Aintree, and he beat I Right, who went on to win the Rehearsal Chase. It was actually really good form as well. So he's back down to the same mark. Now, in my Cheltenham selections already, I've suggested to back Remastered now at 25s. Vintage Clouds, I don't want to back right now. And there's a reason for that. It's this race here. This Peter Marsh, he won it a couple of years ago in 2020. And that, for me, was the reason he didn't win at Cheltenham. Because he went up too much. He won the race, he went up in the weights and couldn't do it off, I think it was 153. Couldn't do it, finished 8th. Still ran a really good race for a long way. The Peter Marsh, if he goes there this year and wins, I wouldn't want him in the Cheltenham race. If he goes there and disappoints, I wouldn't actually be too bothered. I would still be keen on him in the Ultima. And if he goes there, finishes 2nd or 3rd, and the handicap mark stays the same, I'd be very, very keen on him. I did tweet that he was my horse of the day for Tuesday at this stage in the handicaps, and Sue Smith did like it. So hopefully that means that's where they're targeting him, and maybe we won't see him again. He's currently 33-1. Just checking. Yep, 33-1 for this race. 33-1 for a horse that actually won the race. He's finished 3rd, 2nd, and 1st in this race. I would, I'd be keen on that if we knew he wasn't running elsewhere in the meantime. If he does and disappoints, don't be too worried. If he doesn't and goes straight to Cheltenham and you can still get 25s, 33s on the day, then I think he's a great bet. Three horses that don't have prices in the race. They've not been priced up at all that I have talked about and reasons, and I'll go back over them. Honest Vic, he disappointed at Cheltenham, no doubt, no denying that. He pulled up. I do want to give him one more chance, and I think I highlighted a race that he could go to first and maybe get a bit more experience, win a pointless race essentially, not moving the handicap, and then come back to Cheltenham. I do like, this Cheltenham run was really, really impressive when he won here. And he's not done that since, but this was in graded company. He then went into novice events and he ran well. So he jumped well enough to get round there. He just jumped atrociously at Cheltenham. Give him that poor run, go and find him some more experience, and then turn up at the Cheltenham Festival. And I think Honest Vic is a big player still in the Ultima. EmmaTom. EmmaTom's interesting because, he was fourth in 2020 in the Stayers Hurdle. Okay, he's not done it since, especially over fences, but he's now handicapped quite nicely. I think he's down to 140. That's a really low handicap mark for a horse that he's better than that. I don't think, I personally, I wouldn't run him again this season. I'd go straight to the Ultima. They might try and get him some more experience. Okay, he's finished second, disappointed at Hexham, and then he was third of 3 at Doncaster. But he's not going to win graded races, and I think those horses that have been beating him could do that. I just think he wants 3 mile. Give him a chance at 3 mile at Cheltenham of 140, and he could be very interesting. The final horse I want to talk about that caught my eye was the lightly raced Empire Steel. If you go back and watch him running in the Roland Merrick at Wetherby, he was turning in a really good performance. He was going to run really well. I actually think he was going to win the race. If he'd won the race, obviously he would have gone up in the handicap mark. But, he's got some good form. He was first back here in February of 2021. He actually beat Protectorat. He was second at Ayr. It was a good run. Okay, he pulled up at Aintree when trying to run in Grade 1 company and then returned with a second. It was a good second at Haydock. And he's still very, very lightly raced. So he could be one that turns up unexposed, as similar-ish to like Happy Go Lucky last year. Probably not as potentially progressive, could be a graded horse in the future, but he's definitely not hit his ceiling for handicap marks. It's Empire Steel. So moving on to the person that I think everyone should follow, and send him a DM if you want to find out who that horse is. He might let you know, he might say no. If you want to know who that horse is that I've not talked about, James Russell, his Twitter handle is at JB Rusty. I think that's what it is, JB Rusty, rather than J Brusty. JB Rusty, give him a follow, ask him who his horse is for the Ultima, tell him that Liam sent you, and would he be kind enough to share that information? He might not, but you can always find out. So another race on the Tuesday that I've got one for is the Boodles Juvenile Hurdle, Yorksie. And I actually think he's quite a good price for the Boodles Juvenile Hurdle now. He finished third on debut for Gary Moore at Cheltenham, and then finished second at Cheltenham. Now, having raced mid-division on his first run, they then dropped him back. And I wonder whether they dropped him back in the aim of not actually winning the race. Run on strongly, but don't get caught by the handicapper, and the handicapper don't get found out and seen by the handicapper, and then he goes, oh, well, that's won a race, let's put it up to a ridiculous mark. It finished second, nobody was still that interested, and then he went to Fontwell, went off 4-6, which in hindsight was a massive price, even at 4-6, and he won comfortably at Fontwell. Again, nobody noticed him. It was on Boxing Day. Nobody was watching Fontwell, were they? Everyone was at Kempton or watching Kempton. He won a nothing race at Fontwell, and he's got a handicap mark now. He's got course experience. He's only rated 124, which I don't think is high enough for him, and I think he could be very interesting in the Boodles Juvenile Hurdle. I have advised that one already for the Boodles Juvenile. The final horse on day one that I want to talk about is 3 through 3. I always call it 3 through under 5, but it's 3 under through 5. 3 under through 5. I thought his only disappointing run when he was outside the front two was here, when he was 6th in the Albert Bartlett, when running on relatively well. And that just suggests that he needs further. He's been very carefully campaigned this year. And the race that he ran in last year, don't know what I've written down. 5 out of 6 festival novices. I don't know what that means. But he jumps well. The trip should suit. I think he'll go up in trip. Connections have said they're not rushing to make a decision, but I can't see them running in the RSA chase. I think he's been very carefully and cleverly campaigned so far, so that he's not had a hard campaign, so that when he runs over nearly 4 mile, he's still relatively fresh. So they were my horses for day one that I'm interested in. I've advised some in my Cheltenham Festival selections blog. If you want to know what that is, let me know and I'll send you that. And who I'm looking forward to and looking out for over the next couple of weeks to see if they have another run, and who could be interesting come Cheltenham Day. So video 2, 3, 4 and 5, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Let's hope not just 2, 3 and 4 will be coming soon. Thanks for listening, and good luck if you want to have a bet on any of those that I've mentioned today.